Hello, welcome back to another episode of the Liberated Women podcast. I'm so excited because today I'm joined by a guest. Her name is Autumn, and Autumn is a energetics and manifestation mentor. She's the host of the Magick Woman podcast, so another fellow podcaster. She's a firm lover of being alive. Hurrah! Hooray for being alive! And she helps women own their magic, find their power, and create the life of their dreams. Welcome, Autumn. I'm really excited to have you on as a guest on the podcast today.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. So grateful that you're having me on the show. And yay, hurrah for being alive. Yes, I
Yeah.
want to echo that.
Yes, aho, as I sit outside my casita in Costa Rica, and you are calling in from somewhere cold by the
I'm
look of it.
yeah, I'm in a little mountain town called Silverton, Colorado. It's like 1,000-person mountain town, 9,300 feet elevation. So we've been getting snow. It is cold.
I'll send you some sun and you send me some coolness. That'll be amazing. All
Perfect.
right. So we've got a lovely, juicy conversation to dive into today. Autumn's going to share a little bit about her journey, her story, what she does, why she believes in her in manifestation and energetics, and maybe even give some tips or ideas on how you can implement this into your life. So maybe let's just start with you sharing a little bit about your story and how you got into this work.
Thank you so much. So it's kind of a butterfly effect how everything happens and you look back and it just all makes perfect sense. But I was, and a little trigger warning for anyone who's tuning in, um, I was molested as a child when I was 5. And this is such a common thing. It's kind of crazy. Like 2 out of 5 women at least will have experienced something like this. So I was molested as a little girl, and it really closed me down. Like my whole body closed, my throat chakra. I had repressed the memory and blocked it out. It didn't come back until I was like 10, and it shut me off. My heart, my sexuality just completely shut me down. And from that place, I had created, because I'm also from a little conservative town in West Texas. And my parents, we didn't grow up Christian, but conservative. My mom waited to have sex until she was married to my dad, really wanted that for us. It was just like the general vibe. But I had already lost my purity, quote unquote, for anyone who can't see the video. Right. So I felt this feeling of being tainted, of not being pure, of not being good, and desperately wanting to be good. So from that place, I graduated as valedictorian in high school from this place of wanting to be a good girl. So very much an overachiever. My first boyfriend, I got herpes from him. I had an abortion. Just I was raped by him. Just like very just from that place, like from that first sexual assault, having created situations where I felt so much shame, specifically around my sexuality. And we know as women, our sexuality is a huge key for our power and for us feeling beautiful and feeling good and feeling alive and loving to exist. Like it's tied into our power, and our power ties into manifestation. So I decided also I was going to be a model. And I had this crazy eating disorder. If you saw photos of me, you wouldn't even recognize me. Again, wanting to be a good girl, overachiever, and also just not wanting to be in my body. And I didn't know this at the time, right? I just had these goals and was working towards them. So I moved to New York, was pursuing modeling. I broke out in full body hives. And it was the first time I really felt my intuition. And it was like, no, this is not for us. No, I can't do this. So I ended up moving back to Texas. And all the while, I'm learning about manifestation because I'm trying to manifest being a model. I'm learning about manifestation. But back then, it's more like the secret style of manifesting, like just think positively, be positive, like see what you want in your mind. But there was so much unhealed stuff within me. Like I had never seen a therapist about being molested. Like I had never healed from this grief I felt around getting herpes and feeling disgusting and like no one would ever love me. So there was just so much shame that I had, but I was trying to manifest the life of my dream. So luckily my intuition came through and I started a YouTube channel talking about eating disorder recovery. Very organically from there, started coaching women in self-love, eating disorder recovery. And I decided I wanted to move to Hawaii. And I manifested it, the craziest thing. One of my clients ended up moving there, asked me if I wanted to be her roommate. Like years later, we became friends. It was just synchronicity after synchronicity. And when I got to Hawaii, I was forced to really be with myself. I was miles and miles away from anyone I knew, bought a car, broke down the day I got it. I was like hitchhiking around and I was feeling the depth of the world. So cue existentialism, got super existential. All the while I'm trying to manifest. So as all this is happening, like I manifested going to Hawaii. It was really successful. I'm still trying to manifest. I'm trying to manifest money in my business. I'm trying to manifest the love of my life. My high school partner and I broke up. I'm trying to manifest all the things I desire, but still there is this like tone of me not having really come to love and accept these icky, deep parts of myself in my journey, not having alchemized them from happening to me to happening for me, like that really juicy place. And finally, I did. Long story short, finally I did. And now that's what I help women do really is like manifestation from a place of loving yourself, from a place of deep identity choice, which is a different conversation, but I offer the Magick Woman identity and we really play with the Magick Woman archetype, leaving behind the good Magick Woman, owning our womanhood, owning our sexual energy, owning our power, owning the fullness of our story. And as I was able to really do that for myself, I started to be able to manifest a lot easier. And it wasn't because I meditated every day. It wasn't because I vision board did, which I do love to do, is fun. It wasn't from a visualization practice or technique. It was from loving myself, embodying the Magick Woman identity, and showing up in a powerful way with all of me online, all the parts of me, including the inner part that was molested, the part that has all the sexual trauma. Like I've never healed her fully. She's still with me, but she gets to come with me and I can love her and choose who I be. So it's this really beautiful, synergistic place between the duality within me. And I help women do that as well. So lots of emotional maturity, lots of self-honesty, radical self-honesty, and a deep love for existing. Because in this day and age, like doom and gloom is so popular. Hating being a human is so popular. Like shitting on existence. When, if we can stop and zoom out, it's like, what a fucking miracle. Everything had to go right. You get into quantum physics and your mind is completely blown. Like you need a new mind because this life is so incredible and so vast and everything had to happen just right. And that is also a huge key for me. When I truly love existing, I'm a way better manifester. So yeah, it's a little summit of it all.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I think a lot of women, certainly in who are listening to this, and women who come and sit with me in circle and yeah, come to do this kind of work, that's exactly an experience that they've also had. This, so many of us come to this kind of work because we have experienced something really difficult in our life, and you get a choice. You either alchemize that and you use it as your power, because it is your power, because you wouldn't have faced it or been able to get through it if it wasn't for you, not to you, even though it's so difficult for our bodies to know that when we've experienced that much trauma. and and I think the key word there is alchemy, and alchemy is definitely something that I love using and I talk about a lot. And this really alchemizing like fear into love, and pain into gold. And that's what we are doing as women. We are literally remembering, oh hey, wait a moment, like I was put on this earth, like maybe I don't think I deserve to be here, maybe I don't think I deserve that thing, maybe I don't think I'm worthy of that thing, but I'm here. Like, and as you said, like, what a precious life we have, and what a gift we have. And there's like a fly buzzing around me as I speak. And before, when you were talking, I was like, I'm in the jungle. There's never a lot of noise apart from the animals. And then a massive helicopter came. So if there's a part of the podcast that people can't hear you speak, it's because there was a giant helicopter that came over. And I was like, helicopters never come over this neck of the woods. And then I just thought I got a little bit annoyed, and then I thought, well, no, because maybe they're going to rescue someone who's like experiencing a fire up the road, or maybe they're going to, and so like we're all part of this web, like we're all part of this weave of existence. And there is so much magic. And as I said, that butterfly went by, there's like so much magic everywhere you look. And I want to kind of tap into a little bit of what you said around, like, I kind of want to touch upon like toxic manifestation in the coaching or spiritual industry, because you mentioned The Secret at the beginning of um of your story, and this is not to shit on The Secret in any way, but when you said, like, oh, just be positive and think positive thoughts, and but then there's all these unhealed parts of myself. So there there is a lot of false toxic manifestation BS out there. And I think a lot of people that are going through this awakening journey, going through this healing journey, might be like, oh, I saw an angel number and now it's like it's magic. And maybe it is these like little signs that are magic, but it's more than that. And if you can't actually access those parts of yourself, the parts of yourself that you've suppressed, the part of your throat chakra that was shut down because of not being able to speak and because it's so connected to your sexuality. And I know that one really well. I was in an abusive relationship for 3 years. Wasn't sexually abusive, but it was highly physically and emotionally abusive. And I was the same. I was a selective mute for like 2 years after that relationship. And I've had to work really hard on coming back into self-expression and not being shut down. And even now, I still get those triggers. If someone interrupts me or shuts me down or dismisses my ideas, I go straight back into that space. I know it, I'm aware of it, and I can vocalize it now. But that's taken like a lot of years of alchemy. Look, even as I'm speaking to you, it's still coming up in the throat. And it's happened. I've recorded podcast episodes on here solo where I've spoken about parts of my story and I start to cough. And I don't stop the podcast recording because this is a pure example of where it lives in our body. And like those are the parts that we want to get to, so that then, as you mentioned, like embody the fullness of life. But we can't embody the fullness of life if we're still deeply in that space of trauma and deeply in that space of um yeah, like the self-sabotaging behaviors and the patterns that we're playing out, because it's protecting us essentially from those things that happened to us that were just so deeply painful that we had to suppress them or justify them or put them to the side or even disassociate from them.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I'd love for you maybe to speak into any experiences or kind of tips or advice around not getting sucked into toxic manifestation and this like high vibe, good vibes only, peace and love. Like, but like
Mhm.
really, how to manifest from a place of embodiment and how to manifest from a place of truth and integrity.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing with me about the throat chakra piece. I had manifested tonsillitis so many times. I got my tonsils taken out
Mm,
when I was like 10, 11, or 12, like somewhere in there from that place. And it's been such a constant, yeah, coming back home. So I just see you and honor you and thank you for sharing that. And the way that I look at reality, so I'm just going to be super like real and honest. The way I look at reality is like everything's divinity, right? Everything's divinity. If there's one source, which you go into quantum physics, you go into holographic universe theory, it's like there's one source and it's fractalized into every aspect of creation. So whether it be the shit in our bowels, the beautiful blue sunny sky, the asshole on the street, your lover, whatever it is, like it all exists as a fractal of this one source. So with that, this, what as you were calling toxic manifestation, there's divinity to that. There's truth to that. And it actually works really well when you can be super, super positive, super like knowing and trusting and believing and acting from this place of deep empowerment. But there's in the mainstream, there's a missing gap between, okay, how do we get there? And it's not like we'll be there all the time, but I know in my life, even when I moved to Hawaii, it was like I knew I was moving to Hawaii. I was walking 3 miles a day, blissed out, listening to like it's like texting my family, I'm going to be in Hawaii soon. And they're like, yeah, right. And I'm like, no, I am. Like, watch me. And it happened so quick from that place of me enjoying my life and me just being so stoked about this dream I had. But the reality is that place and where most of society is and all of our unhealed shit and all that we don't talk about and all that we don't say, there's a really big, big gap, which is why most people can't manifest on repeat. And that has been me. I've been able to manifest like these things every now and again that are like really big or I wanted. And I was able to like focus on them and do something like really, really spend a lot of energy being the person who has it. And like, and then it could come into fruition, but not all the time. not as much as I wanted, not every day, every second. Like Deepak Chopra has a quote that says, if every second of your life isn't a synchronicity, you could be more in alignment. And I think about that a lot because I know those times where things manifest super easily. It's like there is angel number leading to this person, leading to this thought, to this idea. But it's just so rare, right? It's so rare because most people can't even be honest with themselves. Most people can't be honest with other people. Most people feel like they need to work on their boundaries when in reality they just need to tell the truth. And like they don't know how to do that. Like that hasn't been, it's not a part of our culture. We go to school, we have to raise our hand to use the fucking bathroom. And like someone could tell us no. Like that, it's how are you going to trust yourself enough to let yourself be in the magic when you've never trusted yourself before and always looked for someone else to tell you what's right? So it starts there, and it's not sexy. It's so much sexier to say, yeah, you just think positively and you visualize it and you believe it and then it happens. And I think a lot of people, when they first get in manifestation, they can do that about something. Like they can feel it and they can do it and they manifest one big thing, but then reality hits and it's like, oh, starting over from ground zero. So with that being said, I work a lot also with alchemy and the laws of alchemy, including the law of polarity, and the law of correspondence, as above, so below, as within, so without. So often, because it's all divinity and my personal belief. So why do we give ourselves part of the clues about how manifestation works, but not the whole thing? Because we're actually not ready to feel our full power, because we actually still want to play a limited game. And whether we call it toxic manifestation or us just not being ready to hold our power, either way, it's the same thing. And if you're willing to take this radical responsibility, like this is all divinity, including me, including everything that's happening and everyone who comes in my life and everything I believe in. This is why I'm so passionate about this, because a lot of teachings talk about this, but then they say, and this is good and this is bad. But it's like, no, if everything's energy, then you have to embody it in every place, in all times, in everything, in every aspect of your life, and then you're free. But that requires so much of us. And not everyone wants to play that game. Like, not everyone wants to play that game, and that's totally fine. That's the game we play in the Magick Woman verse, and that's why the women come in my world are able to really manifest on repeat crazy stuff. Like one of my clients manifested her dream home under market value without a realtor, even though she was outbid, because the woman just liked her and was like, make your best offer and we'll take it. She's like, great. It's like, but that doesn't happen. But that's not how life works. And it's like, yeah, when you're not seeing it all as divinity, including the house, including the person selling the house, including you, including the money. But if you can play that game, we're somewhere else. So when there is a big feeling or the things that have happened in our lives, like if you were molested or if whatever's happened to you, these unthinkable things, how is that divinity? And how can I take my power back from that and allow that to be my superpower? Like you were saying, allow myself to alchemize it, because I know from experience, if you just think positively and you don't actually alchemize stuff, you're going to be limited. So it's like actually alchemizing it back into divinity, which takes feeling, which takes coming home to your body. We live in a physical body, even though we know energy isn't actually what it, or no, something, no matter how solid it appears, we know it's actually just energy vibrating really closely together, really slowly, but it's still energy. So our physical body at the end of the day is still energy, but it moves energy through it, through emotions. I love water magic and science that explains that every cell in our body is coated with thousands of water molecules. That makes us molecularly. So every part of our body, our eyeballs, our organs, our teeth, it's all just cells, right? Like teeth cells and eyeball cells and organ cells. All of those cells are coated with thousands of water molecules. So that makes us molecularly 99.9999999% water. As above, so below. 99.9999999% of this reality is about feeling. It's about letting ourselves actually feel. So I think toxic manifestation is denying the feeling aspect of this life and letting ourselves actually feel fully. And if we can feel fully, we can alchemize and come back into our power, knowing it's all divinity. This was a lot.
Yeah, I fully agree. And I've got a tickle in my throat as we're talking about the water and I'm picking up my water. Those of you that are watching this on YouTube, I'm just sipping some water because it is all energetic, and we're talking a lot about, you know, being stuck in your throat and expressing yourself and feeling. And I think so many women, I talk about this a lot on the Liberated Women podcast. I talk about it a lot with my Liberated Women clients. And it's just like, what does it mean to be liberated? Like, what does that even mean? And it's a question I'm going to ask you at the end of this podcast. I ask all my podcast guests that question. Like, what does it actually mean to be liberated? Being liberated doesn't mean you live in some massive fancy house and have the, you know, the dream car and the dream partner and the dream life. Like, yeah, that's beautiful, that's amazing, but you can have all of that and still not feel liberated. So what does it actually mean to feel liberated and be in your magical essence? You know, the Magick Woman, the liberated woman, they're the same thing in a way, because it is really about having to feel the feelings. And for so many women, and probably women that you work with, and certainly women that I work with, and women like us who were shut down from events that happened to us, and we felt it so deeply in our throats and felt it so deeply in our wombs, that actually, like, we go from numb and frozen to feeling. And all of a sudden that is so overwhelming for a woman who's been in her frozen state for so long. And many of the women who do come to me have been living in freeze. Like, they've been living in that freeze response, and I lived in that freeze response for many years, and I'm sure you did too.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, so in order, so we can't just think positive thoughts and get there. Oh, we actually have to feel the thing first, and feeling is freaking scary, and it's overwhelming, especially when you've gone from like freeze to feel. And all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, how can I hold all those feelings? How can I contain all those feelings? How can I be responsible for all these feelings that I'm suddenly feeling? And I don't know what to do with them all. And it's all a lot. And then other people come in from the outside and they sense our power and they try and shut it down, because, and so that you get knocked back down, and then you go back up, and then you get knocked back down, and then you go back up, and you feel all these things. And I think that's where the alchemy lies, is in the liberation of being, allowing yourself to feel all of it and still be okay with it. And like, so for me, for example, right now, like, yeah, like you with your manifestation of Hawaii, it's the same with me in Costa Rica. Like, we visioned it, we did ceremony over it, it was in my womb, I knew I had to come here. I had this image of like a magical life here. That's not what I'm experiencing at all since being here, not at all. And in fact, like, I asked for this year, my intention for this year was to ground, to feel grounding. And like you, we were promised a car with our job. We don't have a car. We've been at almost over 7 weeks. We've been hitchhiking everywhere. And it's been a real lesson, like, really difficult. And why for me, and I've spoken about this on previous podcast episodes, so those of you that have heard this before, but I think it's really important to share it, and I shared it on my Instagram. Like, why for me did I ask for grounding, and why is it so hard for me to ground? Right. And these are like, this is now the alchemy. This is where it gets to get juicy. This is where I get to feel the magic and the liberation, because I've always moved countries. This is like the third country that I've lived in abroad, away from home. It's a very different living now to how I was before. I was a teacher for many years, so I totally get it. What you were mentioning before, it's what actually took me out of teaching. I just couldn't deal with things like that anymore. It was too restricting for me. Um, and why is grounding so difficult for me? Because my ancestors were never safe. Like, my dad's Israeli. His dad was kicked out of his country during the war. His mum was kicked out of Egypt. Her mum and dad were kicked out of Algeria. On my mum's side of the family, they were kicked out of Europe. So, like, no, we don't have a home. Like, it's never safe to stay in one place. So my body instantly, automatically, always wants to find the new place. And then, of course, I was in an abusive relationship, so I'm always looking for the exit. Like, where's the escape route? It's not safe for me to be. It wasn't safe. It wasn't even safe for me to be in my own home with him. Like it wasn't safe. Like I was gonna die. That's why I left. I really thought he was gonna kill me. It was got to the point where I was like, I moved in with him. 6 weeks later, I called my mum and I cried from school and I was like, I have to come home. And she was like, get your shit, get home. Dad will come and get you with the van. Let's go. It was like covert operation. We did it whilst he was at work. We got all the stuff and we left. And I got back to the flat and he trashed the entire flat. It looked like a burglar had been in my house, like a robber had been in my house. Like he'd smashed my shit up. It was everywhere. Like my grandmother's pearls, like everything, like everywhere. All my paperwork, everything. So yeah, it was never safe to be in one place. And then when I finally bought a house in the UK, like I was only in my house 3 years and now we're here. And I love that house. I'm so proud that I got it. I love it. And it's like, okay, now I'm here and I haven't got a car and I can't really get anywhere and I'm having to hitchhike and I'm learning about grounding and I'm learning that, oh shit, like no matter where I go in the world, I'm never going to feel safe until I choose to feel safe in my body. And that's
Mhm.
like, that's the alchemy, right? And I've been doing that for like 11, 12 years of my life now. And that's where the magic gets to happen, because when you then understand that pattern and then you start to alchemize it, you're going to stop looking outside of yourself for the, oh, but if I move over there it's going to be better, oh, and if I just go over there things will. And yeah, maybe certain things would be better and they probably would be, but
Mhm.
if I don't have that sense of like, oh, I'm safe wherever I am because I am with me, like my home is me, and they've raped and pillaged my land so many times. Like, and I am the land because I'm feminine and I am a human. I am the land, and we're all energy, and we are the land. The land is us. Like, if we're not like, well, I'm safe in my own body, then I'm never going to feel safe anywhere else. And this is the kind of like dealing with those sorts of like deep rooted kind of core feelings in the body that don't even come from like my lifetime. Well, part of it comes from my lived experience in this lifetime, but comes from my ancestors. I can continue going through life just never feeling settled. And it's an unsettling feeling to not feel settled in your body. That's not the
Mhm.
land around you. So now here, probably a bit like Hawaii did for you, yeah, we haven't got our friends here. It's just me and Josh. Like all the stuff coming up, and it's good. Like I'm so lucky that we're both such alchemists, and we get to go through that together. And like it's amazing, and he can hold it, and I can hold it, and it's like amazing. But yeah, I used the manifestation to get here, but now I'm
Mhm.
here. I'm having to deal with the real root of why I manifested coming here. If that makes sense.
Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah. What was driving the manifestation?
Yeah.
The desire. Yeah. For greener grass, perhaps, or whatever it may be, to really get to face yourself. And I love that so much. The way I kind of teach this process, I teach what I call the process of connection. Step one is feeling fully. So like a trigger, whatever comes up, any resistance, any crunchy, any discomfort, feeling it fully, telling the truth about it, which is like, this is all divinity, this feeling, this situation, nothing like not having a car to force you to ground in, you know, um, telling the truth about it, calling your power back from it. So feeling your power coming back to you, feeling it's a very sensational, kind of electric, almost Kundalini-esque experience. And then if you do that enough times, at the end of it, there'll be some gratitude, like, wow, I'm so happy I created this situation. So I could really call my power back from a place where my power's been. And I find this so often, and relationships the perfect place to kind of source these nuggets of discomfort. And it takes so much to be in love with someone, living together day in and day out, like beautiful mirror, beautiful opportunity for alchemy. And that journey of calling your power back and being willing to hold, it requires so much self-responsibility. And I think that's why a lot of people shy away from this deeper work, like you're talking about, really alchemizing. Because the way I believe each of us came here if to experience life, to experience human reality. And then some of us came here to really remember divinity. Like, this is all divinity. I think everyone has that within them, but not everyone lets themselves be existential and everything else required to really come back to that truth. But for those of us who do choose it, life wants us to heal. Life, and that's just nature. Nature's always healing. Nature's always trying to create balance. Nature's always trying to create optimal evolution. I mean, from the Big Bang, if you will, to like where we are now and everything we have, it's like, wow, we've been just creating better as best as we could, fucking up along the way, but nature is just always orienting towards healing. So when we have these pieces, there's no other choice. Like, we will continue to have them delivered to us until we can heal with them, until we can take our power back and come back into wholeness.
Yeah,
It's
that's it.
beautiful.
And I think like from this place, then the vision will come, then like the higher purpose will come from here. And like, Josh was like, wow, this is a perfect opportunity. Like, we're in a place, we're grounded. It might feel a little bit boring. Here's the perfect time for us to put down our foundations and our structure for the thing that we want to create. And so like if you see it as an opportunity and you take it that way, then you can definitely create magic.
Mhm.
So I'm going to start wrapping up. I'm so, so grateful that you came on to have this conversation, and hopefully people have really taken away a lot of ideas and inspiration and things to chew over and thoughts to kind of mull over as they've listened to everything that you've shared. And I always love to end each episode by asking that question that I asked earlier, which is, what does a liberated woman mean for you?
Thank you so much for having me. And I love the essence of liberation. And to me, the liberated woman would be a woman who's willing to approve of all of herself. If you can approve of yourself, you are free. Like, you are liberated. And that Jesus dude, like, had someone write a whole book about this, like, you're gonna fuck up. You're human. All you have to do is approve of yourself. Like, you just ask for forgiveness, and you love yourself, and you find that approval. And to me, at the end of the day, with manifestation, like, manifestation's kind of a sexy cover word for like deep self-love and really being able to approve of yourself. So to me, the liberated woman is a woman who fully approves of herself.
Mm. Aho, may all women learn to approve themselves and love themselves so deeply that they are liberated from all of the shackles that we have had placed upon us over lifetimes and multiple dimensions. Thank you so much. I will post your links. So if people want to follow you or find you, I will post all your links in the show notes so people can access you and connect with you if they feel called to do so. Thank you so, so much. And I look forward to coming on your podcast at 2, and we'll have like another juicy conversation. Nothing better than
Absolutely.
two women having juicy conversations. And we get,
Yes, yes.
this is liberating. We get to do this. This is so cool.
It's amazing. Life is good. Thank you so much for having me.
You're so welcome.